Good morning, magandang umaga po. This morning I received an email from one of my subscribers or viewers, and he was kind enough to send me a notice or a video of Governor Gwen Garcia. Interesting. I knew if the meeting was going to happen Monday. I was waiting for it, but of course Philippines is always ahead, so maybe he's from the Philippines that he forwarded it to me, or maybe he's in California. So let's take a look at it. Hang loose, stay with me. As I mentioned, I received an email from one of my viewers, and he was kind enough to share with me the video, the YouTube video, I guess it's YouTube video, that he sent to me. So here is the email that he sent to me, just for your information. Again, this is this morning at 8:19. Good morning, Vlogger Grandpa. I wanted to share this with you if you have not seen it already. This is Governor Garcia making her case before the president earlier today. I do not know how she would be on the other issues, but she sounds like someone who may be a good president. She's here making many of the same arguments about the real numbers of COVID-19 that you have been saying for weeks now. I pray and hope he'll hear what she presented to him and make changes that will be good for the country. Oh, it's on Facebook. So this is not YouTube. Again, thank you for what you do. God bless, Freddie. Now, I'm wondering what this video is all about, so let's go ahead and watch it. Let's take a look.
I may be fully understood, especially by our brother and sister Filipinos in the other parts of the country, as well as outside of the Philippines. I shall be speaking as much as possible in English. Do give me your indulgence if at times I may inadvertently revert to speaking in Cebuano, kay maumangod na ang among namatan nga panultihon. Allow me to first report on the COVID situation in the province of Cebu. I believe that this is very important because recently I have noticed a trend in the reporting of COVID cases, especially by the Department of Health, either by one of their consultants or advisors, or by Dr. Bergeri herself. And it would seem that the reporting has now shifted from actually focusing on local government units. The reporting now has come out in terms of regions, which is quite disturbing because it would tend to put other local government units in the same situation as those whose cases may be rising, even though these LGUs are not similarly situated. But if you just identify per region and then keep on announcing that cases are rising in so many regions, including Central Visayas, it gives a misimpression that since Cebu is part of Central Visayas, then for those who may not be privy to the proper data and figures, they would seem to think that Cebu as well has an increasing number of cases.
That's what I said.
So let me make this very clear so that we actually base our decisions on actual data. Let our policies be data-driven, not based on generalizations and worse, assumptions and speculations. Let me start. As always, I take for a reference the DOH case bulletin that they issue every day. And so, as of yesterday, May 31st, The total number of cases, since this is the only disease that we keep on running up a cumulative total since the very first case was discovered way back last year in 2020. But let it be, because perhaps COVID-19 is really so special. So, the cumulative total for the entire country, according to the DOH, is now 1,230,301. It's there for you to see. This is the cumulative total of 2020 and part of 2021. That is 5 months of 2021, 12 months of 2020. Of this 1,230,301, 93.9% have recovered. A highly recoverable disease then, hitting the upper 90s. The active cases, no, let me first go to the mortality. Porsyento ng namatay. There are, according to the DOH, since last year, 20,966 deaths. I wonder how many deaths have also happened since last year due to tuberculosis or due to flu. By the way, there's no more flu. Yeah, I forgot. No more flu. It's gone. At any rate, with 20,966 deaths, including that of last year,
that's one good news. The COVID-19 virus killed the flu virus. Yay.
Still stands at 1.7%, a very low mortality rate. 1.7% at 20,966. What is the percentage of active cases right now? 4.4%, or 54,290. Right now, the active cases, we know what active cases are. You take away the mortality rate, you take away those that have recovered, you are left with the active cases. Active cases are 54,290, of which, according to the DOH, 95.5% are mild and asymptomatic! Exclamation point. Let me read this again. Halos 95.5% ang mild at asymptomatic! Exclamation point. I don't know what the exclamation point is for. Maybe they are surprised, or they are trying to emphasize a point. They are emphasizing the exclamation point. So, 95.5% are asymptomatic or mild, of which 93.3% according to DOH. 93.3% or 50,000 are mild. What is mild? Meaning, you have symptoms like a slight fever, cold, you cough, and all of this, or maybe loss of taste. Maybe if you're on a diet, you really lose your taste. Isn't that what most of us want? You don't like to eat anymore. At any rate, 50,664 are mild. 1,124 are asymptomatic. So, which of these need hospital care? Moderate of 695, severe of 977, critical of 760, total 2,432 in the entire country. That's the entire Philippines. The number that needs hospital care is 2,432. That's according to the DOH. You can always refer to the occupancy level or the critical care utilization rate, that is all there. From the looks of it, they are well below the 60% critical, whether it's in the NCR, in the entire Philippines. The highs are at 57%. Now let's go to the province of Cebu. And this is our report. The active cases right now stand at 355. 355 are active. The asymptomatics are 53.3%, much higher than the national DOH tally. The mild asymptomatics are 46.7%. Hospitalized, 79. The mild asymptomatics and symptomatics, the asymptomatics and mild symptomatics are in isolation. That's 77.7%. Our recovery stand at 93.1%. Of those who died, DOH figures stand at 730. But as I told you, here in the province of Cebu, we double-check. Where do we check? The death certificate. The death certificate, you cannot lie there. You actually have to put the real cause of death. And in the province of Cebu, of the 730 deaths, 533 are incidental findings. What does this mean? This already includes those that died because of a motorcycle accident, those that died because they had a sudden heart attack, that died of diabetes, died of other causes, and yet, even after death, they are swabbed. Even though there is supposed to be no post-mortem swabbing, they are still swabbed and found positive and automatically registered with the DOH figures as COVID deaths. Well, we all know how huge the sums are for COVID cases in terms of PhilHealth.
This is just like what's happening in the United States. Terrible.
Payments. As high as 750,000 for critical COVID. 400,000 for mild to severe. 160,000 for COVID suspect. Do you know how much the PhilHealth reimburses for another disease that is just as infectious? It is also airborne, and it can take you 3 to 6 months to recover. It does the same damage to your lungs. Do you know how much PhilHealth pays for this disease? Which, by the way, I'm referring to tuberculosis. PhilHealth pays only 4,000 pesos. So there is no incentive for other diseases. It is COVID-19 that is highly incentivized.
Too much corruption. Too much. Swab test, free in Cebu. 4,000 in Manila. Terrible.
But we insist in the province of Cebu that we report as accurately as possible. And that is why, of the 730 deaths, only 184 are confirmed COVID. This 184 corresponds to a low 1.2% fatality rate. I understand that there were attempts yesterday in our meeting in Malacanang to present some figures trying to prove with their figures that we have a high fatality rate in the province of Cebu.
Now that's 1.2% fatality, meaning died. What is the percentage of infected, or at least suspected infected, amongst travelers who are being quarantined. 1.5 to 2%. Infected or suspected to be infected, not dead yet, okay? So way, way low.
However, somebody else pointed out, look, you are not presenting the province of Cebu. The province is different from another city. And so they were unable to present it. Well, here, I shall present the actual status of the province of Cebu. I know that some of those whom we met yesterday were trying to claim that we had a much higher fatality rate than the national average of 1.7. Well, each and every death in the province of Cebu, all 730 of them, we have their names. And we have looked into each of their death certificates. Because, you know, we do validate our figures here in the province of Cebu. And so when I say that of the 730, only 184 in fact have been confirmed COVID deaths, I say that with great certainty because we have our evidence. What is 184? In comparison to the total number of cases logged in the province of Cebu since 2020. 184 as compared to a total of over 15,000 cases in the province of Cebu reckoned from March of 2020. 184 corresponds to 1.2%. 1.2%. Please take note. You may contest that. You may debate with that. We are more than willing to show you our evidence and our methodology at arriving at this number. So, you are welcome to challenge that. But unless you can, with your own verified, validated figures, then this stands. This is 1.2% of the total cases.
By the way, the people who said that 1.5 to 2% of people quarantined are found infected, if you can see that there is deception going on, or what appears to be deception, how do I know that 1.5 to 2% is even accurate? Maybe it's even inflated, just like here. Now, I'm not saying they're lying, okay? But here is statement A versus statement B. Between this and Manila, I will believe Cebu because they're opening the books and they're saying, come on over, take a look at it. Prove it. Very bad.
So I decided to give a report. I do not always make this a daily thing. But I felt that this was time to speak out. And I did this prior to my report about my meeting last night with President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, because I know that several media outfits are also monitoring this particular live press conference. I would like to ask for your indulgence that I have not acceded to your requests for interviews, members of media. I felt that it would be best that I would speak once so that there are no misinterpretations, so that there is a live recorded feed, so that should I be misquoted or should there be other angles that would be focused on, then the public can always go back to the complete and recorded story. Okay, I shall proceed as regards our meeting with President Rodrigo Roa Duterte by answering your questions. directly. And he was accompanied by Secretary Anyo, Secretary Duque, Secretary Harry Roque, Secretary Delphine Lorenzana, and Secretary Galvez, as well as, of course, Senator Bongo. And the President stated that it seems that in Cebu, you are not following the IATF guidelines. So what is this? You have to follow. Although, on the same breath, he also said that I do recognize the help of the local government units in the implementation of policies, and it is the local government units that are actually on the ground. The President, having served as mayor himself of the city of Davao for 27 years, I know that local governance is close to his heart, and he understands how it is running a city or a province. So I explained. I believe that for most of our fellow Filipinos, you are already aware of the difference. But for those who do not, may I repeat, EO 17, subsequently supported by a provincial ordinance, states that upon arrival, ROFs and OFWs are swabbed. This is what I told the President. And then they are brought to the hotel. They wait for 2 days. For Cebuanos, if they are tested negative, they go home to their LGUs and they are swabbed again on the 7th day. They continue the required 14-day quarantine at home. For non-Cebuanos, we ask them to go back to their own provinces, where they shall subject themselves to the health protocols of that particular province. I said that we have not, the way I see it, Mr. President, we are in fact innovating to make it more effective for us. I also pointed out that we saw a steady increase of cases after the 5-day testing rule was implemented, where the returning Filipinos would first be brought to the hotel and they would only be tested on the 5th day. So that when we implemented by March 31st, going back to the old procedure of testing upon arrival, we saw the steady decrease of cases. And I said, in fact, in Cebu, we have made it even stricter in the sense that it is not a single swab. We swab twice. Because once the returning Filipino goes back to his home or his family, he is swabbed again on the 7th day. And then I brought out the humanitarian aspect. Said, Mr. President, these OFWs do not come home to have a good time, actually. Sometimes they do not even have enough cash to pay for the ticket. They borrow money or do a cash advance. And then they come home because there is a reason. It's in times of emergency. It's either that there's a member of the family who is very sick, or someone has died and they are just trying to come home to pay their last respects and say their last goodbyes. We have to look at the humanitarian aspect here because I know how much you love the OFWs, who we all agree are our unsung heroes. They work abroad, they go through so much hardship in order that they may make the lives of their family a little better. And in fact, they are the pre-COVID, they were the single biggest dollar earner for the country. Now, while this new policy would put further strain on the OWA, because instead of paying for 2 days, this policy of IATF requires a 10-day stay in the hotel. which means that would multiply by 5 the cost. Worst is the strain on returning Filipinos where there is no OWA. And they would have to pay. And they will not be paying the discounted rates of OWA. In Cebu, it's 1/4. But they would have to pay the standard hotel rates of 3,000 to 5,000. So 30,000 to 50,000, you know, that amount of cash can do so much to help their family, and yet they spend it in the hotel. I could see how the President really felt for the OFWs and the returning Filipinos. But he asked for Secretary Duque's opinion, and Secretary Duque started talking about variants, and it's really dangerous, and you know, even if they are tested, you know, they can still be, it can be a false negative, and then when they go home, they may be transmitted. You know, there's the transmission, and I said, I'm sorry, but if you do not believe the first test, and that's RT-PCR, then why must we conduct another test on the 7th day? What makes the first day test different from the 7th day test? If you do not believe that if a person is negative, that is possibly false negative. What about on the 7th day? Well, you wait for that stretch. How do we monitor these returning Filipinos? We do not have enough hotel staff. How do we know they will not have interaction with hotel staff? And if they're in fact infected, they could already cause what you are afraid of, transmission. Well, you know, Secretary Anyo said, you know, well, we are probably showing that it's working, but what if other regions will do the same and nobody will follow anymore because they will have their own way? Well, my answer to that was, shouldn't it be the other way? Like, if you see something working, wouldn't it be worth it to study it? And perhaps find out why it's working? And see if this could perhaps be applied to other regions? If you were to be very, very strict about it, we are only arguing about the hotel stay, which is a heavy financial burden and a heavy emotional burden on our both OFWs and ROFs, away from their families, especially in times of emergency, the very reason why they came home.
This is the reason why Filipinos are so suspicious of kickback. Kickback. Money, money, money. Whether it's happening or not, doesn't matter. It's the perception that is really bad, extremely bad.
You know, Dr. Jean Loreche came complete with her figures and showed that Cebu has been able to manage. The variant that you had first segregated as P.3, which later on they called the Central Visayas variant. We are so special to them, really. Very special. You know, in other places, it's called the UK variant, South African variant, it's called now the Indian variant. But in the entire universe, there is only one regional variant, and that's the Central Visayas variant. They were saying, you know, this can be like Indian variant and all. See, Dr. Jean showed that we were more, you know, we have been more religious in sending samples.
Okay, this is 1.5 hours long, but the bottom line is he makes a whole lot of sense, and hopefully President Duterte is going to listen to her. President Duterte is surrounded by these people who are maybe good technicians, but lacking in common sense. In every situation, you have to balance the good and the bad. Sometimes you do something good here, but it generates another bad result. You cannot just do good, 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 and meanwhile the country is going down, 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 down. Make sense? It makes sense to me. Governor Gwen for president. Okay, hopefully you enjoy this show, and give me your comments and let me know what you think. Like what I said, it's very long, but I'm going to put a link so you can get to it and finish it yourself. All right, so please do share this with your friends and everyone else, and hopefully you have a nice day, and God bless.